Hello and welcome to the Northwood University webinar series. I am Christopher Deming with Northwood University. I'm here with Kristin Hadid, who I will be introducing here shortly. But before we do, I wanted to do a couple of housekeeping items. Number one, this webinar is being recorded and archived. If you signed in with us and gave us your email, you'll be receiving a copy of it after the fact. So if you ever want to go back and see what was said, you'll be able to do that. I encourage you to ask any questions that you may have on the Q&A tab that you'll find on the right. We will have an opportunity to do some of the Q&A, a moderated Q&A at the end. So we'll be referring to that tab for any questions you have. Please use the chat for any personal social interactions you'd like to have. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Kristin Hadid. She is the CEO and founder of Student Made, a cleaning company that has employed thousands of millennials over the last decade and is known for building the next generation of leaders. In addition to leading her own company, she now helps organizations around the world make a lasting, meaningful impact on people by creating environments in which they can thrive. She has worked with a variety of industries, including, a long list, healthcare, education, retail, real estate, nonprofits, hospitality, aviation, and consumer products. In 2017, she published her first book, Permission to Screw Up, in which she tells the stories of her biggest mistakes in leadership. She hopes to inspire other leaders to share their perfectly imperfect stories of success to empower people with the knowledge that their most challenging moments can become their biggest leadership lessons. So please welcome Kristin Hadid.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be spending this time with you. I thought we could start just with kind of the beginning of my story and give you a little background about my business. And then what I really want to focus on is the time that we're in right now, the season that we're in. I know this is a very difficult time, and hopefully I have some insights I can share on just some things we can do to better navigate the season that we're in. So starting at the beginning, I was always very entrepreneurial as a kid. I think if you were to ask my parents, they would have told you that they knew I was destined to be an entrepreneur. However, they weren't business owners. I never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur. My grandparents were entrepreneurs, so maybe that's kind of where my entrepreneurial spirit kind of was inspired by. But going through my life, I always had these little businesses, babysitting clubs, little businesses like lemonade stands, those sorts of things. And then went to college. I went to the University of Florida and was very lost and unsure of what I wanted to study and what I wanted to do with my life, and changed my major so many times. And I ended up with finance, and not because that's really what I wanted to do, but I had just heard that you could make a lot of money working on Wall Street. And at the time, my friends were very motivated by high salaries. And so I kind of just followed in their lead, and finance was my major, and my plan was to move to New York and work as an investment banker. And one day my life just kind of took a turn, and I didn't really realize at the time what was happening. But this one day I went to the mall. I was 19. Shouldn't have been there because I had no money, but here I was at the mall, and I fell in love with a pair of jeans. And these jeans were $99, and I thought, what is something I can do to just make $99 so that I could buy these jeans? And my first idea was, I'll clean a house. And that's how this whole business of mine started. I put an ad on Craigslist. I said, I'll clean your house for $99. A woman hired me. It was an absolute nightmare. Her house was almost 5,000 square feet. And here I am, 19 years old. I don't have any professional cleaning experience. And I was at her house for 7 hours. And at the time that I was done, I wasn't actually finished cleaning. It was just dark outside. It was late, and she basically kicked me out because she wanted to go to bed. So it was a nightmare. But she paid me. I bought the jeans, and I thought that was, the end of the story. And she ended up calling me back and asking if I could help her every week. And she kind of made a joke that she would teach me how to clean. And so that's what happened. She taught me how to clean her house. I started cleaning her house every week. She told her friends about me. And next thing I knew, I was going to class. I was cleaning houses, going to class. And that was my life every day. And never, though, did I think that it would be my business, that this would be my future. If someone had told me then, you're going to own a cleaning company, I would have been devastated and begged for any other destiny. That to me didn't really sound exciting or something that I wanted to do. But things kept growing. And right before my senior year, I had this really big turning point where I got a contract to clean 800 empty college apartments. And this was kind of like my defining moment. So I get this contract, and it was really easy to get the contract because there's not a lot of people that want to clean empty college apartments. I hired 60 students. It was just an ad on Craigslist. It was a great job for students because it's like a 3-week contract. You could work as much as you wanted. And I had no clue how to lead, so here I am overnight. I'm now leading a team of 60 people. And this is where the defining moment comes in. 3 days into the contract, 45 of those 60 people just walked out. They hated the job. I wasn't a good leader. And I didn't recognize in that moment just like the weight of that experience and how much it would shape me as a person, as a leader, and really my obsession with learning how to be a better leader and learning how to build a company where people really wanted to be came from that moment. So these 45 people walk out. I have all this work to do. I'm obligated contractually to finish the work. So what am I going to do? And I ended up going to the 15 people that hadn't walked out, and I said, I need you to help me. 45 are gone. We have to get them back. And we had this idea to have an emergency meeting at my house. And the way we got everyone there was we promised an early paycheck. So, we're all in college, we're broke. So everyone shows up because everyone wants that early paycheck. And I had no idea what to say. I hadn't even prepared. I was too busy worrying about getting people there that I totally forgot to think about what am I going to say if people actually show up. And I was just honest. I said, I've never done this before. I've never led a company before. I've never led a team before. Obviously, I did something wrong. I don't know what I did. I need you to help me. And everyone came back, and we ended up finishing our work. And that was the summer that changed the rest of my journey from then on, because I was fascinated with this business. I was fascinated with how do you make people feel valued and taken care of and, really excited to come to work when the work that you're asking people to do is really not glamorous and really not fun. When you're cleaning toilets every day. And I was also really curious about how do you become a great leader, and also how do you help the people around you to become great leaders? How do you develop leaders around you? So I ended up turning down a job in finance after I graduated to stick with the company. And here we are. It's been 13 years, which is absolutely crazy. And Student Made, my business, has employed thousands of young people. We hire primarily students. A lot of our team members, though, we say that anyone is a student because at Student Made, we're all here to learn. So we do have people who aren't in school that are a part of the company. But at the foundation of our culture is leadership development. We believe that our purpose is to help our people really develop the skills and learn the skills that they need to be successful in life. And the point is not to stay at Student Made forever. We want you to learn these skills and really develop as a human and as a leader. And then we want to launch you off into the world so that you can go make your mark on the world. So our students, they clean houses and offices. We walk dogs. We're like a full concierge service. But in addition to that, we have courses that we teach that are all leadership focused, and they have nothing to do with cleaning. And our students are also taking those courses. So they're learning a lot. And I will say that in the 13 years of having my business, I have never been through anything like what we are going through now. I would describe what we're in now as the greatest test of leadership, of leading yourself, if you're in a position where you're leading others, of leading others. And it's the greatest test of business and for every organization. I think there's a magnifying glass on every organization right now and how you navigate this time and the decisions that you make and the decisions that you don't make. That's what's going to earn future loyalty or destroy it. And it's what will earn future success or not. And so it's just really tough. And I have 4 things that I just want to, hopefully impart. And I'm certainly not prescribing. I think for those that are listening here, everyone's in a different walk of life, and some may have a business and some may not, and some are students and some are not. And so I'm hoping that, with each of these 4 things, maybe there's one thing you can take away and apply to your unique situation. But this is experience sharing of 4 things that have really helped me. So the first thing is owning your feelings. And I talk about this a lot in my book, but I think that we have our society has given us this idea that strong leaders and great leaders are always positive. They always have the answers. They're confident. That strong leadership is always knowing the next step and knowing what to do and having, not needing anyone's help. And I couldn't disagree more. I think that strong leaders, yes, are confident and sometimes know the answers and sometimes know the next step, but they also are the people who can stand in front and say, you know what, I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm not sure of the next step. I'm unsure. I don't feel hopeful. And I think it's this mix of optimism and realism. And so I would just say, no matter what you're feeling, it's normal. I've had times where I have felt throughout this anxious and afraid and uncertain and frustrated, and in many ways, like I'm grieving, what life was like before this whole pandemic happened. And then I have days where I feel hopeful and optimistic and I'm excited. And what's really odd is that sometimes I feel all those things at the same time. And I think it's okay to be anxious about the future while also being excited about what the future holds. And it's okay to feel all these emotions. And one emotion is not better or worse than another. So just giving yourself permission to own that, and most importantly, to talk about that. Because the more that you can share how you feel and be really honest and transparent, the more you are allowing other people to feel safe sharing the same thing. And you're helping people realize that they're not alone. So I would say just own your feelings no matter where you are on that spectrum. Check in with people, ask them how they're feeling. And I have this question that I love. Like I'll say, how are you doing? And they'll answer, and I'll say, how are you really doing? And sometimes people just need that invitation to go a little bit deeper, but own your feelings and create the space for the people around you to own theirs so that we can feel like, we're in this together. And just knowing that strong leaders are, yes, confident and hopeful and optimistic and all those things, but they have the courage to say, I don't know, and I don't feel my best today. And I am having a day where I feel overwhelmed, and that's strong leadership as well. The second point is about values. And, I was early on in the business, I read a book called Delivering Happiness, which is a great book if you love to read. It's the story of Zappos.com and how Zappos, really early on in the business created these core values that really guided decisions that they made as a company and who they hired and who they didn't. And so at the beginning of Student Made, we created these values that became the compass for every decision that we made. And a lot of them are my personal values, reflected for the company. And I think right now we're having to make really hard decisions, and decisions that normally we wouldn't have to make in any other context. And I think our values are so critical to help us make those decisions. So I'm going to give you an example from my business. I had to make a choice. Do we stay open or do we close? And this is before the restrictions came into place. And, I was really torn because on one hand, if we stayed open, I knew there was a huge opportunity to bring in revenue. People really wanted cleaning services. They really wanted disinfection services. But I also knew that if we stayed open, we were jeopardizing the health and safety of our people, of our customers. And then you have the flip side of closing. But if we closed, I knew that it would be a huge cost to the business. It would literally bring our revenue to zero. And we have this enormous responsibility to take care of people financially. So I felt very torn. What do we do? So I've learned whenever you have to make a tough decision to invite other people in to help you and to not feel like you have to make it alone. So I called a virtual meeting with the whole company. I gave everyone the chance to share how they felt. And the takeaway from the meeting is everybody wanted to stay open. So I said, okay, we'll stay open. And then later that night, just something didn't feel right. That feeling in my gut, I know you know what I'm talking about, tugging at you. And it was my values. It was my values tugging at me like, hey, that decision that you made today, not in line with what you believe. And, one of my values is about putting people first and really protecting the people that put their trust in me. And so I asked myself a question that I often ask myself when I have that tugging feeling. If money wasn't a part of the equation, what decision would I choose? And I couldn't deny that money was absolutely a part of this equation. On one hand, all the leaders in my company wanted the business to stay open because we wanted to protect the financial health of the company. And all of our team members wanted the business to stay open because they wanted a paycheck. So money was absolutely a driver in this decision for everyone. But if I remove money from the equation and I said, okay, if money wasn't an issue, if we had enough money and that wasn't the issue, what's the decision that I would make? And it became so crystal clear. We would close. We would close to protect the health and safety of our people and our customers without question. So I called another meeting less than 12 hours after we had just decided that as a company. And I said, different decision. We're going to close. And I made a commitment to taking care of people financially throughout the whole time of our closure. I said, my promise is that you will be taken care of, knowing how much that decision would cost me. It meant that I would have to apply for emergency loans, disaster loans, huge cost to the business. But I would much rather have that cost than to make a decision that goes against my values. And I can tell you the response from our customers was, thank you for making this humane decision. We were flooded with customers wanting to buy gift cards to help sustain us that they could redeem after when we opened again. And we were able to keep everyone paid from our customer donations. We received some funding, some grant funding. So, just having the courage to stick to your values and use those as a compass, especially when you have to make hard decisions. The third thing is about how you respond to obstacles, the mindset that you have. We certainly can't predict the future. We certainly don't know what's going to happen in the future. This is a great example. This pandemic is a great example of, you can have a plan and then like this, everything changes. And the one thing that's always going to be true is there will be obstacles that cross our path. This season we're in right now, this obstacle is really affecting everyone. But there will sometimes be obstacles that only affect us, and we can't ever predict or plan for them, but we know that they're going to exist. So we can't take the obstacles away. We can't prevent them from happening. The only thing that's within our control is how we respond to them. And I'm going to share this. This happened this week, actually on Tuesday. It was horrible. So one of the loans that we received I live in Florida, so from the state of Florida, was this disaster loan that was a zero interest loan. So for all the students watching, this was like really great because it means that there's no cost to having this loan. Zero interest. It was supposed to be a safety net for us, and we have to return the money within a year. So they give us $100,000, which was a huge relief. It was the first loan that we applied for and that we received. And then the state called on Tuesday, this wonderful woman. I could tell she was so nervous on the phone. She called, she started the conversation by saying, I have been dreading making this call, but there's been a mistake. We mistakenly gave you $100,000 and we were only supposed to give you $50,000. And this kind of loan is unique because when you apply for it, you don't say, this is how much I want. You basically apply and the state decides how much to give you. So all the documents said $100,000. So I had every reason to believe that we were given $100,000. That's how much was put into our bank account. That was on all the closing documents. So she says we made a mistake. It was only supposed to be 50. It was a clerical error. Now, in that moment, of course I'm devastated. $50,000 of our loan has to be returned. Thank goodness we hadn't spent it. We had the money to give back. But, I had a choice in that moment. I could be angry. But that's not going to change the facts of the situation. So I kind of made a joke. I said, I wrote a book called Permission to Screw Up. If there's anyone that you want to make a mistake with, it's probably me. And we had a good chuckle. And I said, don't worry, I'm gonna get you the money back. And we just sent it yesterday. And the woman who called, she said, I just have to tell you the way that you've handled this. Thank you. It has made me feel so, I can't even describe how it's made me feel, because she was thinking that I would be negative and react in this really bad way. But, I met her with empathy, and we're all human and we're all going to make mistakes, and there's always going to be obstacles, and being angry and all that doesn't do anything. And so I just, I've learned that there's going to be things like that happen. You can control how you respond. And it's just another challenge to solve. It's okay, we had to give this $50,000 back, so what's another way that we can get some more funding? And we're already working on it. And so I think sometimes we can get so bogged down in the negativity, and we can play this, why me, and, be the victim. But things aren't happening to us on purpose. They didn't make that mistake on purpose. It just happened. And what would it look like if we could meet people with empathy when these obstacles, are thrown in our path, and instead of being negative, learn to just, okay, I've got to pivot. I've got to find a different way. And if you can get really good at that, that's building resilience. And no matter what the obstacle is, you will find a way to overcome that obstacle. The last thing, and then I want to open it up for some Q&A. The most important thing is that we've got to redefine success. The world that existed of January 1 is not the world that exists right now. And the goals and the plans that we had on January 1, they don't really apply right now. And that can feel really defeating and almost like you're failing. I know for me personally, I had some really big goals that I set on January 1. My team did. We were on track. We were ahead. And in fact, we were absolutely crushing it. And then this whole pandemic happens. And in an instant, all these goals are almost not applicable anymore. It's like the problems that we have to solve are different problems now. And it can feel like you're failing because your original plan is not being met. And so instead of tying yourself to that original plan, give yourself permission to walk away from the goals and the plan that you had starting this year. And give yourself the opportunity to redefine what success looks like. And instead of thinking about it like, what does it look like a year from now or 6 months from now? Just look at it in a bite-sized bit of time. So between now and say the end of June, what does success look like? And how am I going to redefine it? And it's really important that whatever it is that you define success as, that it's within your control. So my success for the next 2 months is quite simple. Just one thing, to take care of my people. If I can look back at the end of June and say that we took care of our people this entire time, that's all that matters to me. And that's what I'm working hard to do and to make sure that we honor every single day. And yes, the goals that we had at the beginning of the year, maybe we'll go back and revisit some of those, but those aren't the goals right now. If you're in a business or an organization and you're finding that you cannot do the thing that you normally do every day, you're not alone. There's a lot of organizations out there that the primary thing they do, they can't do it right now. And so what do you do? And I have a really powerful question for you to bring back to your team. For me, the question I asked my team is, what if we could never clean another house again? What would we do? And it led to this amazing discussion where everyone had all these ideas of ways that we could still live our mission, our purpose, without actually cleaning houses, which is the thing that we do. That's what we do, but that's not why we do it. So it led to, one example is we're starting these coaching groups with students so they can learn the things that we teach in student made, people that never have the chance to work with us. We can still teach them leadership and do that component virtually and give more people the opportunity to learn from us. So, you can pivot, you can be creative, and it starts with asking the right questions. And from there, you can redefine what success looks like. So could you ask your team that similar question? What if we could never do this again? What would we do? But just give yourself the chance to find the opportunity. I'll close with this thought. Right now, it doesn't feel good. Right now, there's a lot that's frustrating about this time. And I feel like the 13 years of building my company have conditioned me for this moment. Like, I didn't realize it in those 13 years, but every lesson I was learning is the reason why right now I'm able to navigate this time. And so I also know that the things I'm learning right now are preparing me and conditioning me and helping me for something that is happening in the future that I don't yet know. And when I get to that challenge or obstacle, I'm going to look back and I'm going to realize how much I learned right now and like how much these lessons were gifts that really taught me what I needed to be able to thrive and succeed in that future moment. So I know it's hard, and I don't want to discount that there's so much sadness and hard about what's happening now, but there's also so much opportunity if we can learn to look at it that way and be open to the lessons and see them as gifts. And yeah, it's not going to feel good right now, and maybe not next week and not next month, and maybe not even in 2 months, but one day down the road, we're going to look back and we're going to be thankful about some of the parts of this that really helped us become a better version of who we are and really taught us some powerful lessons. So with that, before we dive into Q&A, I just want to say I have a slide. Kristen's going to help me put it up on the screen. So here's my contact information. If you have to run and you can't stay on for Q&A, just a couple of things I wanted to point out. I'm really active on social media. My username is Kristin Hadid. It's there. Please, follow me, stay in touch. I'm updating a lot about what's happening right now every day. What I'm learning, I'm putting online. It's kind of like we're in this journey together, and I want to take you along with me and share what I'm feeling, what's happening to me, in hopes that maybe it will help you feel less alone. So be sure to follow me on social media. And then at my website, KristinHadid.com, there's a couple things. One, I have a blog. I write every Tuesday. It'll get sent to your inbox. I never will spam you, I promise. But it's just the things that are on my heart as a leader and the things that I'm thinking about. So if you're interested, sign up for the blog. And then most importantly, there's a page called Resources. And on that resource page, I have all my favorite books. If you want to do some reading right now, I have self-assessments that you can take to learn more about the kind of leader you are. My team and I have created resources like how to best work remotely and how to get better at building relationships and trust from behind a screen, and just things that really speak to where we are right now. And so I hope that you'll utilize those resources. I'm here for you. You can message me through the website. My team will get it. And if they can't help you, they will introduce you to me. We are here to help you and support you in any way that we can. And I just want you to know that you're not alone. We're all in this together. So with that, let's do some Q&A.
All right, I'm going to jump back in here and help moderate some of these Q&A. We have quite a few questions, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have a question that says, what tips do you have on setting goals when no one in your organization really values doing so?
Yes. Well, first, I would say a big part of this is leading yourself. So no matter what's happening in your organization, how can you lead yourself right now? Be the leader that you wish you had. So can you set some personal goals that, maybe professional, but what are the things within your control, 3 to 5 things that you can focus on for the rest of this quarter, till the end of June, and focus on those things, because you can do that whether your organization sets goals or not. And I think the goal setting process is just overwhelming for people. I think that sometimes planning is hard because planning is really guessing. I know in my company, there's so many times we've set goals, we've had to go back and change them. We've realized that we had the wrong goal, or that we didn't think about this or that. And so it can become deflating. And it's like, well, what's the point in setting goals anyway, if every time you have to go back and revise it? And so, we just continue pushing forward and continue taking what we've learned and try again and do it differently this time. So maybe it's just starting a conversation and saying, look, I know that maybe we're not all into goal setting, but I think right now it would really help everyone. And what if we invited everyone to the table to just identify some priorities that we could, mutually agree are the most important things right now to keep us all aligned and on track? What I will say is, for me as a leader, a lot of the best ideas have come from people in my company having the courage to tell me how they feel. So just being honest that you think that there should be goals and being transparent about that and see what the response is.
Another question. During the time that your team is idled, are you spending time building infrastructure or market research?
So we are doing a lot of things. We first thought, what is everything that we can have people do virtually? There's a lot of, projects that you say, well, one day. So we're doing a lot of those projects that have always been on our list, but we've just always put off. And we're making some huge momentum with those things. We're also doing a lot of certification stuff. So our industry offers, these different certifications so that you can really understand how to best clean and sanitize with this virus. It's specific to COVID. So we've taken those certifications and we're redoing our training and our procedures so that when we reopen, we can be confident that we're doing it in a much safer way and that our customers can, really know that they can trust us. So we're very much, I would say we're working on building building more to our infrastructure to just make sure that when we reopen, we are reopening and addressing the current climate. We're a cleaning company. It's up to us to be the experts in how to best keep people safe and disinfect.
We have a question and a comment from one of our previous presenters, Beth Bryce, who was our very first webinar in this series. She says, Kristen, I love how you are reimagining your business, and asks, what if you could never clean a house again? I'm reading it like this because if anyone knows Beth, this is the enthusiasm she shares when she's asking really good questions. She says, are you seriously reevaluating your products and services and revenue streams?
Oh, yes, we're reevaluating everything, and we're getting to the heart of what we're excited about. And there's no question that what everyone's passionate about is leadership development. I mean, that's why we do what we do. We just so happen to clean toilets too. So this idea of taking the leadership development that we teach in the company and how can we get it to as many students as possible, that's a new idea. We're also thinking, what if we could sell our own products? What if we could create? We were thinking of like when this whole began, what if we had sanitizers? So we're thinking of new products. We're thinking of new service lines. We've had a lot of requests for errands and those kinds of things, and we provide concierge services. So a lot will come out of this, and it will be, we're still going to stick to the core of cleaning, but there's definitely going to be other things that we're doing in addition to that wouldn't have happened had we not had this time.
And then I think this may have to be our final question, just out of respect for your time and respect for those who are in this webinar. What are some ways or advice to motivate people to come to virtual meetings or want to participate in activities from home?
Oh, yes, this is a tough one. I think it's an adjustment for many people, and some do better virtually and some don't. And, one size doesn't fit all. And my executive team, we've been remote for 5 years, so we've had to learn a lot about working remotely. And we have a few kind of ground rules, and that is that when we meet virtually, we're present. Everyone has their video on. We don't have our phones nearby. We don't have emails, open. And we always start the meeting with, okay, let's take a moment of silence for everyone to just like collect your thoughts and be in this moment. And if somebody seems distracted, we call them out on it with love, but it's like, hey, can you, refocus? And we quietly wait for that person to get back in. We take breaks. We're big with anyone need a break, but and I think as a leader if you're leading the meeting, it's the leader's responsibility to set those expectations and to say, okay, we've got 90 minutes. This is the purpose. We've got to accomplish this. We want to be really engaged, really present. I think a lot of times we get it wrong in meetings because we don't tell people what we're here to do. It's sometimes not until halfway through the meeting or even at the end of the meeting that people are like, wait, what is this meeting about? And sometimes you feel like the meeting was a waste of time, which then makes you not really look forward to other meetings. So I always like to start the meeting with, here's the purpose, here's the goal of what we've got to accomplish, everyone present, and start with that so that people know, okay, here's what I'm here to do, here's what you need from me, and that leads to higher engagement, I think.
Awesome. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to speak with us and provide some of your knowledge. For those of you who have some unanswered questions in the Q&A, I apologize that we're not able to get to all of the really great questions that you left there. I did want to let you know that Kristen has generously provided us with signed copies of her book. And after this, you'll be receiving a survey about our webinar series. If you would fill it out, you will be entered to win one of these copies of the book. So, without any further ado, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week for Northwood University webinar series. Thank you, Kristen.
And real quick before you go off, I always end with I call it a virtual hug. So I'm going to give you all a virtual hug. We're in this together.
All right, thank you.